So 2020 is finally over. Thank God. So today I'm going to be ranking all 24 2020 movies I've seen this year. Hello everybody, my name is Zachary Muchek, and I gotta get rushed with this intro because I've seen 24 movies this year, which means this is going to be my longest ranking in my channel. So I do need to get this done because it is going to be really long. But yes, make sure to go down below, subscribe, hit the bell, comment down below what was your ranking of every 2020 movie you've seen. I know a lot of you haven't seen a lot. I've only seen 24. It's probably a max of movies I've ever seen in a year because this is the first year I've ever actually liked movies. But yes, I gotta get into my ranking. Make sure to do all those. And with that said, here we go into my worst film of the year. Number 24. That's Hard Kill. Hard Kill is so bad. It's a direct-to-video action movie starring Bruce Willis. How bad could it be? Awful. There's literally nothing I liked about this film besides one character. And that's only because she was a wrestler and she did pretty good. Besides that, this film sucked. The cast sucked. The action sucked. They shot the film in what looks like a PS2. Wait, it's just horrible. I do not recommend this film to anyone. Bruce Willis doesn't even do anything cool. In fact, I actually hated Bruce Willis after seeing this movie because he made this movie. Yes, guys, this film was truly terrible. There's several characters die along the way, and I really wish they all did. So I did not have to watch this movie anymore. It's not anything I'm ever going to watch again. Ever. 23rd place, Trolls World Tour, and unfortunately I already have it planned. For my 1-year special, I'm going to be reviewing this movie again. Which means I have to watch it again. Yes, this film was that bad. The songs weren't good. It goes in a direction which makes you think it's going to be not an Infinity War knockoff and going its own way. No, this film, it just changes direction. It doesn't even know what it's going to be. An Infinity War knockoff. No, a film about division. No, it sucks. There's nothing good about this film besides one plot twist. This film was awful. Not ever anything I'm gonna want to watch again. Thinking about I'm gonna have to watch it again makes me want to die. This movie was awful. Don't watch it. 22nd place, the one and only Ivan. I did not hate this movie. That's what I would say if I actually liked it. I thought I was gonna like it. The trailers looked good, but this film sucked. It was awful. Truly terrible. The first 2 acts had no emotion for a film that was emotion. Sure, the third act had emotion that actually almost made me cry, but the rest of the film has no emotion. It was horrible. I was bored. There was nothing good about this film besides the cast and maybe a little bit of the third act. Third act was a little bit enjoyable. Besides that, this film was awful. Do not check this one out. Speaking of bad films, we're going to go to 21, Armada Foul. Technically, this is the worst made film on this list, but I kind of enjoyed it. Did I give it a positive score, though? No, it was bad. At the beginning, we get one scene where we get to meet the characters, and then he's off on this adventure that nobody cares about. There's Call of Duty stuffs with fairies. The action, well, there is some good action parts. Josh Gad was also pretty funny. I like him. But this film, it was so professionally made. And in a lot of ways, it was really bad, and honestly, for me, a real disappointment. 20th place, Vampires vs. the Bronx. Speaking of disappointments, wow, was I disappointed by this film. I really wanted to see this film. And then, it was bad. I mean, there was nothing good about this film besides a little bit of the second and third act. Sure, for a comedy, the first act almost had no jokes. I was not laughing. Second act, I kind of laughed a little bit. Script was written awfully. I mean, how can you get a kid who saw a vampire, nobody believes him, next scene all his friends believe him when they were just calling him an idiot the scene before? That is bad writing. This was a bad film. In fact, I could have reviewed this. I didn't, though. I hated it that much. I could have reviewed it. I skipped making a video. This and Hard Kill. If I'm comparing this film to Hard Kill, you know how I did not like it. Okay, after this film, I'm going to start giving films positive scores. These are just films that I give a negative score that I did not like. Just a little note there. But starting from number 19, I'd give this a positive score. And number 19 is Doolittle. Okay, how can you give a positive score to Doolittle? It's not bad. It is ridiculous. And the dragon farting in Doolittle's face, that was bad. Actually put a sour taste in my throat, and this was my least favorite film of the year. Until I watched it again, and it was kind of enjoyable. But that's just a nice, fun, enjoyable adventure. Some solid jokes. Great casting, by the way. Robert Downey Jr., Tom Holland, John Cena, a bunch of the greats out there. They are all doing a great job in this film. They had great chemistry with each other as they go on this little adventure. Like I did say, though, the reason it's so low on this list is it is very ridiculous. We get a dragon. For the climax, we get a dragon farting in Doolittle's face. It was just not written the best. It's not a bad film. It's just not great either. 18th place is Hubie Halloween. I reviewed this film. It's a nice, fun family film. I laughed at a lot of the jokes. It's ridiculous. The thing here is that puts it this low on my list is there's some annoying things. Hubie Halloween's voice is bad. I was so annoyed by that. The plot twist in the end, that was ridiculous. I mean, it's just an Adam Sandler comedy. Normally, I like these. This is probably my least favorite one I've ever seen. It is just not a good film at all. But it's an enjoyable one. I liked it, but as you see, from being this low on the list, it's not very good. 17th place, Bloodshot. An enjoyable film. I could compare this one to Artemis Fowl. One scene where we get to meet the characters. The next scene is an action scene that we instantly get thrust into an adventure. But unlike Artemis Fowl, this was professionally made and actually pretty good. There's some good action sequences in here. The cast is good. There's a lot of good plot twists that I was like, oh, that's interesting. So it kept your interest along the way. Good thing I did not see all the trailers because I would have been spoiled. I did not see all the trailers, so that's probably what made my enjoyment. It kind of was disappointing in some ways, but in the end, I had fun with Bloodshot, even though it certainly wasn't a perfect film. 16th place, Christmas Chronicles 2, a cheeseball film. It's not very good, but it's not very bad either. Sure, there are another annoying things about this one, like the villain. He was very annoying. But it's a nice, enjoyable film for Christmas lovers. Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, they had great chemistry on screen. I loved all of them together. Everybody did a great job in their own respectable ways. It's just a nice, enjoyable, cheesy, fun fest for the whole family on Christmas time. Like I said, there's some annoying things like the villain and a lot of the plot lines. The time travel thing was just squeezed in there like that. It just was ridiculous. It was enjoyable too, though. 15, The Devil All the Time. This is technically a blasphemy movie. I did not like it very much. Sure, but talking about professionally made, that's why it's number 15. The first act set up everything pretty nicely. Second act really dragged. I hated the second act. It almost became one of my bottom 5. And then the third act kind of wrapped everything up nicely. Like I said, blasphemy, so I don't really want to talk about this one too much. Just know that it had some great cast, some story issues, but in the end, it was just wrapped up really nicely. 14th place is Scoob, an enjoyable Scooby-Doo film that if I was not a diehard Scooby-Doo film, I would hate this movie. Sure, it was ridiculous. Scooby-Doo teaming up with superheroes, but hey, I love Scooby-Doo. I love superheroes. This film was made for me. Sure, it's not great. There is some issues, but when we get to meet characters from the Hanna-Barbera universe in a Scooby-Doo movie, you can't really go better with this film. It was really enjoyable. Some of the action was good. The cast was great. Well, most of the cast. They should have gotten the classical legends from the direct-to-video ones to go in this film. But hey, Mark Wahlberg putting in this one as Blue Falcon, that was great. Like I said, it's not a perfect Scooby-Doo film. It's just nice and enjoyable. 13th place, and well, actually, Scoob wrapped up my bottom 10. So that, if I made a top 10 worst, that would be my top 10 worst. I did not hate all those films. Just a thing, but 13th place is Run. kind of disappointing. I put it here because it was professionally made and it was a good thriller movie. It's disappointing, though. There were a lot of things that did not make sense, like, how does she know her mother's doing this? How does anything here work? Now, she found out about the pills, but, like, her mother's, like, being nice to her, and then instantly she wants to escape. Sure, there were some nice thrills, some nice spookiness in this one. It's certainly not one of my favorite thrillers. That belongs to 10 Cloverfield Lane, my new favorite thriller of all time. But this one was a really nice, a really enjoyable thriller film with some good casting and a lot of great twists in the third act. 12th place, My Spy. Not a bad film. It's certainly a very enjoyable one. But the villains do really suck. Now, what I mean by that, the villains do not have a lot of great things about them. Their plan was not very good, to be honest. But it is just a nice, fun family comedy film to make me and a bunch of friends laugh. Some cool action sequences. It is kind of disappointing when you get to the villains. It left a sour taste in my mouth. But My Spy, I certainly do think it's worth it. There's just a bunch of things wrong with the script. But for a comedy, you could have gone worse with a Dave Bautista-led comedy about a spy. 11th place in Nola Holmes. This film had some writing issues, but in the end, it's just fun. My biggest negative with this film probably is how the character of this Lord, he just abandons the film for the whole second act. We get to meet him in the fantastic train sequence in the beginning. But he doesn't show up until the third act. That's probably my biggest negative. There are some writing issues. It has enough to make 2 Enola Holmes movies. There's a lot of mix-up here. I really do wish they just stuck with one plotline about the mother, but it is good. Millie Bobby Brown is great in this film, as well as Henry Cavill. It's just a really, really enjoyable film. Mystery film with some solid twists, kind of, and some cool action. But as you see from it being on number 11, I do think that the kind of writing issues did bang this film a little bit. Kicking off my top 10 of the year is Onward. I did not love this film, actually. If it was any year but 2020, and if I've seen other films this year, like I am in 2021, this film would not even be close to cracking my top 10. I didn't love it at all. It seems like it has a bunch of writing issues. Like, why in the world would Barley just go, I'm taking the staff, nothing's happening, and then Ian goes, oh look, I did something. Just some writing issues, guys. In a lot of the films I've seen this year, there's a lot of bad writing. In the end, though, this was just a nice, enjoyable Pixar adventure with, actually, I think some really solid emotions. Like the younger brother thinking the big brother's a screw-up. I am a big brother, so that kind of resonates with me. Same as Soul, another film that will be on my list. This was just a nice, enjoyable Pixar adventure. Not anything that, if I saw another 2020 film that I loved, would be on this list. But I did not see a bunch of great 2020 films, so that's why it is here. Number 9 is Clouds. A nice, fun... Why am I saying fun? This film was emotional. It had a lot of emotions in the third act. It does kind of drag for a little bit in the second act. That's why it's not higher up on the list like I wish it was. In a way, it was kind of disappointing. But the film, at all, is not bad. The cast did great. There were some really emotional scenes. And what makes it worse is that this was a true story. People's families actually got torn apart because this guy had cancer. The music is really good. I actually looked him up on YouTube. His music is really good. This, in the end, was an enjoyable, nice, emotional train wreck. It just really wasn't what I was looking for. It wasn't great. But it did have some funness in the middle there. To 8th place, Wonder Woman 1984. Speaking of cheesiness, this film is cheesy. In a way, that kind of does undermine the Wonder Woman original movie. This film is nowhere near close to the original Wonder Woman. It's just a nice and enjoyable Wonder Woman film set in 1984. Sure, some things like how they got Steve Trevor back was a big face smack. Seriously, they had him in another body. Why? This film was just overall ridiculous. It just wasn't great. Like I said, this film would be nowhere near my top 10 if I've seen other films. It's just a cheese fest with some cool action sequences. A bad villain. I didn't like the villain at all. It was just pretty enjoyable film with Wonder Woman in it. 7th place, and this is when it starts getting pretty good, The New Mutants. I really like this film. I know a lot of people didn't. This is a really nice, really enjoyable New Mutants film. There's some cool action in here. It's a nice build-up. It has some really cool build-up. The cast is great. They all have great chemistry with each other on screen. It is kind of predictable, but I was like, if it's going to be predictable, at least make it predictable in a good way. Some of the things were bad in it. Like the third act, it kind of dragged a little bit. But, the nice leads and some of the thrills and chills of this film is really enjoyable. And it brings up a nice build up into the finale, even though the finale kind of disappointed me. Kicking out my top 6. I'm on number 6. New Mutants was number 7. This is number 6 is Tenet. I really need to see this film again. I can't really say much. When I first walked out of the theater, I was like, that's great. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I was wrong on how I interpreted some things. So I really need to watch this film on Blu-ray, turn it up all the way, listen to some of the things, maybe turn on closed captions. It is a good film with some cool action, some cool things in this film. It is really enjoyable. It does have some cool action, kick butt. John David Washington was great, Robert Pattinson was great, Elizabeth Debicki was great, and Kenneth Branagh was great. There's just some problems with the script and stuff, but in the end, it was a nice, enjoyable Tenet film. A film like this, and it certainly did not disappoint. Kicking out my top 5 is Soul. The more I think about this film, the more I love it. Soul was pretty dang good. I really enjoyed this film. And yeah, until the last 20 minutes, which were my least favorite part of the film. It was just a nice, fun adventure in the city with Joe Gardner and 22 walking around. The both leads, they have great chemistry with each other. There is some really funny moments in this film. I laughed a lot. Overall, the film did not disappoint, even though the last 20 minutes were frankly kind of bad. I did not hate this film. I quite enjoyed it along the way. But, there were some problems within the last 20 minutes and the beginning. That kicked off my top 5. Let's kick off my top 4 with the Phineas and Ferb Can't Against the Universe movie. I was not expecting this film to be this high at all, but this was an enjoyable film. Had a lot of problems. If you thought about it, it was a bad film. Kind of like The Room, which I still have not seen. It's really fun. It's really enjoyable. We have all the cast members returning. Everybody does a great job. It's really funny. If you just gather a bunch of friends to watch this film, it was close to being my favorite of the year. I really enjoyed this film. I had a blast with it. I highly recommend this film, especially if you're Phineas and Ferb fans. This was just such an enjoyable adventure film with Phineas and Ferb in it. I recommend this film. As you see, it's on number 4 on my list. It's really high in my top 5. 3rd place, kicking off my top 3 of the year is Mulan. I really enjoyed the 2020 version of Mulan. Had some cool action. It was a PG-13 action movie for a film like this. Was not expecting it. But I really do think it was a really good film. The cast members do great besides the lead actress, unfortunately. There's some good comedy in here. Jason Scott Lee is amazing. Wow, probably my best villain of the year. Great action in there. A lot of great things. No songs, but it does have an amazing soundtrack score. It's just a great, enjoyable film for Mulan. I really kind of like this film. Me and my friend Brandon from Weekly Reviews, we were both surprised by this film. 2nd place, Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Film I was not expecting to like at all. And as you see, it's on number 2 on my list. It was great. I had a blast with this film. There's a lot of great action sequences. Both the leads do a great job, especially James Marsden. Jim Carrey's fun as always. There's some nice funness into the film. It's just a nice, fun, enjoyable film with a bunch of great actors. A film that really surprised me because I was not expecting this to be good at all. And it just is such a fun film. But coming in first place, my favorite film of the year, and I do own it, is Call of the Wild. Okay, I know. How can you think Call of the Wild's your favorite movie of the year? It is so good. I love this film a lot. It's just this nice, fun adventure in there with a nice CGI looking dog. Sure, they could have had other dog. But, I did like the CGI dog. Harrison Ford is great. It's a film where it's slow build-ups, and then in the end, it goes massive, and that's what this film was. I love this film. I need to rewatch this film. But out of all the 24, I've seen this film in February. Nothing was able to top my love for Call of the Wild. Hate me if you must for putting this number one. But I had a blast with this film. Make sure to tell me down below, what is your ranking of every 2020 film? This was a long video. I gotta go. Thank you guys for watching. Tomorrow I will join you again, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.